money is kind of the big picture. You know, is zooming out. And we've covered a lot of topics. If you're watching these chronologically, or this isn't the first one that you're watching, we have covered a lot of material. And if we were to just zoom out and look at this from kind of that bird's eye of what are all the areas that we've been talking about, why are they important, how do they fit together? Because a financial plan is just like, it's like a complex puzzle. We learn about each piece of the puzzle individually, because if we just threw a whole bunch of products and services in a pile and just started talking about how they all related to each other, that gets really confusing. Okay, where recently I went to a funeral, and there were probably at the family-only viewing. This is someone in my family. My great uncle passed away, and I'm at this funeral, and they did a family-only viewing before, and there were about 400 people there. This is family only on his wife's side, my great aunt, and his side. 400 people. And so if they just got up, if somebody got up and said, okay, we're just going to introduce everybody real quick, that's so-and-so, that's so-and-so, and this is how everybody's connected, and they just flew through it really quick, how much of it are you going to remember? None. You're probably not going to remember any of it, maybe one or two, right? But if you met each person one at a time, talked to them, learned where they connected, and did that one at a time, now that would take a really long time. You wouldn't remember all of them, but I bet you would remember more. And the more you met each person, the more you would remember. And so sometimes people, you know, zoom out and they look at all the products, all the stuff, all the approaches in the financial industry. Then there's opinions from credible people, not so credible people, people that think they're credible, and we have to take all that and try to filter it down to what's going to be the best thing for me. And sometimes it's just so much information that it gets overwhelming and we don't remember. And so zooming out at this, it's learning one thing at a time, one piece at a time, and then being able to take those pieces now that we understand each piece, and we can say, okay, for my tax situation, you know, I need to pull this in. For my retirement, I maybe need this and this, get some more information on that. When it comes to my debt, it looks like I need to do these things. And so it's pulling in those pieces that make sense and then reevaluating the pieces often to see if there's any pieces that need to be switched out. So maybe a puzzle isn't the very best description. Maybe an engine, right? Because a new piece, an enhanced piece, you know, comes in but fits on the same engine, where you can't really switch out puzzle pieces. The big picture, the real world rule of money, is that all 6 of these areas, whether you're a business owner, an individual, a family, these are things where all the numbers aren't going to be the same for everybody. The cash flow that's coming in isn't the same for everybody. The amount of debt people have, or the long-term, short-term approach, but all 6 of the areas are more than likely, in like 99% of people's lives, they deal with all 6. And so just to look at them really quick, number 1 is cash flow. That's going to be what comes in, what goes out, managing that. Taxes, LLCs, S-Corps, how does the money come in? How is the money spent? You know, what deductions do we have? All of that. Okay, number 2 is going to be your insurance. That's going to be health, life, cars, home, disability, all of it. How do they relate to each other? Are there accounts that can be combined to help save in the cost, or do they all need to stay separate? Who owns the policies? Who are the beneficiaries of the policies? Do I need to have them be people? Do I have it be a trust? But having that protection in place for the what if. And because you think about it, if you remove step number 2, you could have, you know, great cash flow, on track to be totally debt-free in a short amount of time, you know, building an emergency fund, creating a retirement account, you have a trust, you die, you don't have enough for retirement yet. Who's going to fund that plan if you don't have life insurance? Or let's say you don't have the life insurance, and instead of dying, you become disabled. Let's say you've got life insurance, and you've got a great plan going, and then you become disabled. Well, who's going to fund that plan now? Or I have a really great plan going. You get the idea. Okay? We don't need to go through every example. Okay, number 3 is going to be debt management. If you have it, you hate it, and you want to get rid of it. Or if you don't have it, you want it, called a mortgage, so that you can live in a home, right? But wouldn't it be advantageous to learn if and when I do get debt, or if I have it, what's the fastest, absolute fastest way to eliminate it, and using debt, if I need it, to my advantage, like the bank does. The bank is in debt to a lot of people. They're borrowing money from us, and they stick it in an account, and they pay us a little tiny bit of nothing of interest to borrow our money to go do other things with it to make more money on it. So debt is not always bad, but again, it could be abused if it's not understood. Okay, number 4 is an emergency fund, making sure there's short-term money saved. It's accessible, it's liquid, I can get to it when I need it, but it's going to grow if I don't need it. Okay, emergency fund, that's going to be college planning. That's going to be saving for a down payment. That's going to be saving for a car. That's going to be more short, mid-range type things, and having that piece in there. Number 5 is building wealth. This is building long-term wealth, whether that's through real estate, or it's through investing in businesses, or starting a business, or having a retirement plan, the 401ks, the pensions, the whatever. That's building wealth and having that piece in there. And then lastly, preserving the wealth is going to be more on the legal entities, and then also setting up wills and trusts. So that's kind of the big picture. And as we go through the Impact School of Money and all the different lessons that you watch, all of those areas are touched on. And so then what you can do is you can kind of grab a piece and say, oh, this tax code over here, 72T or whatever, that has to do with step number 5. Or this concept over here has to do with step number 1, cash flow, learning the tax brackets. But the tax brackets really affect, well, a lot of them. 1, 5, 6, 4, can affect number 3. Taxes, the tax bracket you're in doesn't usually affect number 2. But taxes definitely affect number 2. And so they all kind of overlap, but it's learning those relationships and where they fit together. And that is our real-world rule of money for today, keeping the big picture in mind.